So I am back from my trip to London. It went well. I'm super thrilled with it. I learned a ton while I was there. I got to try out some of their new trains, the Elizabeth line train. Gorgeous, clean, new, clean. Looks like if Moynihan train station here in New York had a nice subway system to go with it. That's what it looked like. It was gorgeous. It's beautiful. Like it runs on time. Everything's well communicated to the users of the train. I mean, like I went to London expecting it to be like like a slightly lesser version of New York, except that it's actually a slightly better version, at least from a transportation perspective, a better version of New York City. It is, it's got more diversity than I expected, but New York City is the global leader in diversity, and I think that is our strength. One of our weaknesses is our transportation infrastructure and walkability in comparison to London. London is way more walkable, has so many tiny little businesses, like little nooks and crannies you can walk through, like to be honest, people say, "Oh, doing an extra subway line, it's hard and difficult and da da da," and I'm like, "Well, they're doing it in a lot quicker time than we are here in New York, and their challenges are a lot more complex. Their streets are not perfectly aligned to a grid, like much of Manhattan, much of New York streets are." Um, to be honest, I was totally slayed. I mean, that place is amazing. That's a good city. Let me tell you. I mean, they managed to keep the old architecture while still creating density and and still creating a modern transportation system. They have built um, the sidewalks. They built these sidewalks and these pedestrian spaces. And something I must note is they've built really good bike lanes in London, which I'm kind of slayed about. I'm like, holy moly, they were able to accomplish all of this, and they had way more challenges with prior infrastructure, prior business already being there. But then they were still able to build a modern transportation system, includes trains, lots of trains, bikes. The bike lanes go in two different directions, but along the same boulevard. Um, even in front of Big Ben, you see a big fat bike lane right there in front of Big Ben, complete with the bike lights and the pedestrian lights. Like, I was like, I don't know what we're doing here in New York transportation, New York dot, um, New York State, uh, and the United States in general. But in London, they somehow managed to pull it together, and I feel like their prior infrastructure, prior choices challenge and was way more complex than ours. Um, I think that the politicians here, Eric Adams, he's doing the best he can, but we're going to need him to be a lot bolder. I think he can go even further. He can uh, build the river to river around the park, where the bike lanes go around the park and through the park so they make sense. Good Lord. They don't, like it's got to be a network so people understand it. And I don't mean just the cyclists, I mean the pedestrians, I mean also the drivers. because a lot of people are driving because they feel it's a necessity for them, and they feel that other methods either aren't fast enough or aren't safe enough. So the data is showing that bike lanes in New York and bus lanes in New York make transportation much safer for pedestrians and car drivers, even more so than even cyclists. It's going to make it safer, but uh, pedestrian car drivers, they benefit the most from having the bike lane because they end up in less crashes. And who's going to get hammered when someone gets hit? It's probably going to be a black person. At least they're 4 times more likely than everyone else to get hit in a crash, hit as a pedestrian. So drivers drive more aggressively around black people. So, like, if you're one of those people who's all about social equity, social inclusion, all that, then this is the way you want to go, by constructing well organized, well maintained network of bike lanes. So we have the Central Harlem Bikeway that is being proposed, that me and other people in the Harlem community are trying to get the dot to do, because I know it's hard to believe, but black people ride bikes too. Good Lord, the fact that I even have to say that, and the fact that we have black people and minorities that we have voted for and put in positions of power to make us safer not have decided to tiptoe around the issue. Look, it's you got to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. So we're gonna have to, we've got the money. We need to get a protected bike lane in Harlem so people can take that. And like, if I'm a pedestrian, I don't want them on the sidewalk, and I want an excuse to be able to say, get on the bike lane. And if I'm a car driver, I'd rather them be in the bike lane. Yes, I maintain a driver's license, New York driver's license. I've driven since I was 15 and a half years old. I got a car on my 16th birthday. Like, look, I do it all. So when I'm driving, I'd rather the bike be in the bike lane because it's easier for me to understand where they're at or where they're going to be coming from, if they're in the bike lane, and then I can work around that. So, so that's why we need bike lanes, and then we need bus lanes in Harlem. The black community getting left out as usual. The black part of Harlem getting left out of bike infrastructure, even though when you see the people riding the city bike, black people ride it more than everyone else. Just, per capita, they're riding it more, they're using it more. I see people at my gym, they're using the city bike, using their own bike. They're doing delivery to my doorstep when I need to have a pizza delivered to my house or furniture or something. So look, I mean, the people are doing this. Black people are doing this, and we need to improve the crashes, the statistics. The bodies are piling up, and the city's working slow. Like like we're gonna have to figure out how we can get something done quickly, and efficiently. Maybe we have um, something a little more, uh, like something that's a little more temporary until we can get all the materials and get all the engineering together. um, that will, we need to be moving in the right direction in terms of traffic safety. So something else, I learned about London is, like, they use one of my gripes, I would say, is if you're a tourist, you're at a significant disadvantage because you need a bank card for everything. And I hate using my credit card to make purchases uh, in another country. But I wouldn't mind if they made it easy for me to buy euros and things, so I could. I mean, I'll still use my credit card, but I don't want to use it that much. I want to be able to use cash money. Like, I want to be able to put cash into a debit account in Great Britain and then be able to spend that money there. When I'm going there, in New York, cash is a lot more prevalent. People accept cash. So that would be a benefit to New York City. In terms of affordable housing, Britain is working on a strategy for that. I'm gonna have to look it up later, but they are coming up with a plan in New York City, um, where we're very, since we have fragile capitalism here, and any attempts by the government to help that are fraught with you know political restrictions or perceived political restrictions. Um, so we just need to make sure that the banks aren't allowing people to overvalue their property more than what it's actually worth on the market. Like, because when you do that, it makes it much harder to build, and people and London is proof that you only need to build mid, you know, 8 or 10 floors, and you already see the benefit, and you could build it in the neighborhood style, um, and you can keep the cost down, you can keep the density high. That way you don't need to everything doesn't need to be a 50-story skyscraper. um, and so I would just, I'm just saying, like, I think we can do better. Maybe we need to cut some of the red tape, in terms of, like, every building has like a mountain of red tape around it, and that is making the cost go up. You got studio apartments in Harlem. Help, my studio apartment in Harlem is a $2,600 apartment for a studio. Do you know how much money you need to make per year to be able to afford that comfortably? I would say you would need to be making at least $175,000 a year, if not more than that, $200,000 a year to comfortably afford, a $2,500 apartment. You don't want your rent to be more than 25% of your take home income. That is the income after the taxes, after the health care, after Social Security, after the 401k contributions, all taken out. So what's left, 25% of that is what your rent cost should be in order for it to be affordable. Now, if you and now what you also don't want is rich people. You don't want lopsided communities with just rich people and just poor people. You want a good mix. So what you're going to need there is, you need people of all income backgrounds living in the same neighborhood. So just like we want like diverse neighborhoods with lots of black people and white people and everybody else, Hispanic people, Latino, Asians, Indians, yeah, sorry, Desi, and everybody in between and around and adjacent. So we also need to similarly have those same ideals in terms of the way our neighborhoods have an array of people with an array of income levels all living together. You don't want concentrated poverty everywhere. You want a community that's able to help itself, um, because like you need the money to go to the schools and to go to the infrastructure, and the people living in the community who aren't making as much money or who have accepted lower paying jobs, that you want them to be able to go to the schools that are just as good as everybody else, getting educated just like everybody else. Um, and then eventually everyone will be successful like everybody else. So you really want to balance out the incomes, and the way you do that for housing, I would say, is you peg the affordable housing costs to 80 or 90% of the median income of an individual living in the neighborhood, up to a certain point. Like, and so and so that's like you peg the rent to 80 or 90% of the median income of an individual living in a neighborhood in New York City. So if you do that, then and you force the banks to abide by that, because what happens is the bank wants the property to sell for as much as possible so they can get that origination fee. 1% of a lot more money is a lot more money for the bank. Whereas if reasonable and uh, being responsible financially as a society means that we need to say, no, what is this realistically worth? What is this property actually worth if we don't sit here and keep it empty for some investor somewhere in the middle of who knows, God knows where on the globe? What is the actual worth of this property with someone actually living in it? Um, in any case, um, we need to do way more on that than we're doing. And I think it starts with the banks, with the sellers, the bank saying, no, that property isn't worth that much. I think that's where it starts. Um, in any case, yeah, I absolutely love London. I was so impressed. I wasn't expecting to be so impressed. I was expecting to be disappointed. I was like, oh God, here we go. It's going to be worse than New York. And then it was better in terms of the transportation and in terms of the walkability. Absolutely, not even close. No question. On transportation, London is topping New York right now. But New York, not to fret. We are New York. We went through 9/11 and we came out stronger, and then we will come out stronger again when Eric Adams and Udonis Rodriguez build up our infrastructure. I know they got the Broadway plan going, and Broadway is basically 7th Avenue. So you got the Broadway plan going all the way through the city, going all the way up to the park, to the Central Park. Well, on the other side of the park, there's nothing. Well, we're proposing Central Harlem Bikeway, which creates a protected bike lane similar to Allen Street along Adam Clayton Powell median there from 110 to 153rd Street, Macomb Dam Bridge, which leads you straight into the Bronx, connecting the Bronx to Central Park through a safe bikeway. A lot of delivery people ride their bikes through there. They'll be a lot safer. They'll be able to use that instead of the sidewalk. The people's kids, black kids, they'll be able to use the safe bike infrastructure there instead of the sidewalk. Um, so yeah, we got some campaigns coming up here, and we're gonna need you guys to get involved. And yeah, I'll be coming up with some more videos and whatnot. But let's make it a great day. Take care and Ciao, ciao.